Great to be here. This is my first time in this at Stanford for this CIFE program. Thank you. My name is Hrishi Maha. I work for DPR Construction. I lead our AI and data team at DPR. DPR is one of the top 10 general contractors. We have core market focus on 5 core markets. And then let's get into AI. So when we formed our AI team, we tried to really figure out where do we really want to focus on or how should we even focus on. So we started looking into data management as the foundation. We looked into cybersecurity. We looked into as generative AI started coming up. And then the biggest thing which we started looking into is how do we really do more responsible and ethical AI? So we started building those principles into our foundation of AI platforms, how we built our team. And the last thing is we work a lot on the industry collaboration part of it, because that's really important for us. We work with Microsoft very closely. We work with OpenAI. DPR's data strategy. This is something which McKinsey had put out some time back. If you look at it, as you get more sophisticated in data analytics, the value increases. I mean, a few years back, we were all about reporting and dashboards with the Power BIs, Tableaus out there. And a lot of them were lagging indicators. But as we started getting more into sophisticated forecasting, trend analysis, we started getting a lot of value out of our data. And then moving on to the AI side of it is when we started putting together a strategy for AI. Our strategy always has been, and for the foreseeable future, is AI is an assistant for all the smart people at DPR doing their jobs, be it project teams, be it offices, be it our corporate service groups, or our business units. And the reason is construction is nuanced. Two buildings may be similar, but they are not alike. They may be managed differently. The crew is going to be different. So there always has to be a human in control for the final decision. And then let's talk about some of the challenges we are seeing in construction today. So when I talk to our project teams, went to a lot of projects, talked to our PXs, PMs. This is what we are hearing across. We hear about labor and staffing challenges. We hear about material cost, project delays, how to manage safety better, and how can we really have more sustainability as well as manage our environmental impact. And then speaking to project teams, a couple of years back, this is what we used to hear, is we want data, we want information, we want insights, and we want something which leads to actions. But last couple of years, things have changed with this whole data-driven way of construction. Now, actions are needed, but people are now expecting predictable outcomes. And we feel AI has a huge potential to help us get there. If we use it in a practical way, if we use it in a more like an assistant, it has a huge potential for us to get there. We currently are focusing on 2 areas at DPR. One is predictive analytics, and the other one is generative AI and large language models. So one of the projects I'm going to talk about is data-driven staffing. Staffing, as the project progresses from an opportunity all the way to mobilizing the project and everything. But during the opportunity phase, we typically do a gross margin analysis of the job. We look at how much fee we are going to make, how much gross margins we are going to make, what is our labor differential, what is the right kind of staff we are going to have on the job. And the challenges in those is, right now, we do have a manual way of putting together a staffing plan for the job. But right now, it is built on the experience, what the business developer has, the estimator has, or our Get Work teams have. So how do we really get better at forecasting our staffing right at the opportunity phase? And the challenge is when we get a project at an opportunity phase, the contract amount may not be the ones we end up with. The schedule may not be the one we end up with. So how do we really create a better staffing plan to really have much of a predictive kind of an algorithm out there to say, hey, this project is this is what you need for this job. Because when we get an opportunity and when we break ground, there can be 6 months, year and a half. So sometimes we're always trying to figure out, hey, my project is a year away, but these kind of things, I think then we have to scramble at the last moment, get resources from other regions to execute the job, but how can we really get better at this staffing? And the opportunity we saw is everything what I talked about is how can we use more data-driven approach to staffing. So this is what we do currently, is we have our own gross margin analysis tool, and then we also built our homegrown resourcing platform on where we do all our resourcing, staffing plans. So today, whenever we are analyzing an opportunity, we go through our analysis and then go and create a staffing plan. What we did was we created a predict my team kind of a functionality, because we have about 15 years worth of historical data on every project, on every trade that those have charged their time to. So we thought, let's try to analyze that data, let's try to leverage that data, and let's use it for let's use the historical data to predict a staffing plan. So we built that functionality in our tool, which today helps people predict their staffing plans. So we are not replacing anything what people are doing it manually. It's a complementary tool to how people are creating their staffing plans. This helps people to really double check. I put in 2 MEP coordinators, 2 project managers, 2 safety managers. Okay, I missed someone else. So this tool helps them kind of at least have a double check on a lot of that. So today, this is not replacing any kind of manual inputs which are being there. It is more complementary. So now what worked well really is this really helped people create better staffing plans. We had much more consistent staffing because projects, let's assume that we sometimes do the same projects for the same owner. So we were able to really leverage that information in. And then we also are trying to build a feedback loop in there where these estimates will get better over a period of time. The challenge is some of our older data was not very consistent in how we kind of charge time. There were critical fields missing on the data. We also wanted to make sure that people have been doing this for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. How can we give that confidence to our teams that this can be really helpful for them? So some of the factors which impacted staffing were square footage, construction duration, revenue, what our core markets are, and there were a few others. So this is how the tool looks. If you look at it, I mean, someone has ran this predict my team, and then it has created a staffing plan. So the blue ones are what someone put in as manual. The orange ones are, it says this is a gap. And then our tool also gives them a ballpark kind of range of hours they require for executing the job, and then converts it into FTE. So this is typically how our teams are using this functionality today. The next project we did was, as generative AI, OpenAI, large language models, GPT started becoming much more mainstream. When we talk to our projects, we have a lot of documentation in our projects, right from our EHSP documentation, our specs, submittals, RFIs. There is a lot of information out there. So how can project teams get to the information much more quickly? So we built a conversational AI, and this is we are still beta testing this on a project in Northeast, which answers any question on that project. Because again, this conversational AI or this assistant has to be per project. because we use the same subcontractors sometimes across projects. So we cannot have their specs and everything kind of in one big kind of a data store. So we built this out for one project, and then they started answering very quickly questions on the project. So we trained it. When I say trained it, is we really kind of fine-tuned it to really answer a lot of the questions. So this is, we used Azure OpenAI. So our OpenAI was through Azure. We use Azure Semantic Search, Azure Search, and then we build this tool out there. So this is today being used on that job site. But again, as I said, this is still in testing, and these are some of the results we are getting out of it. So there has been cases where it's not answering correctly, but as you rephrase the question, I think it's getting to there. So we still are trying this out. It is helping the project teams get to this information quickly. Some of the other projects we have done is helping our sales and marketing teams get to the information very, very quickly. This is, again, a generative AI assistant we built for them, built on all the information they have. We record our client interviews, we record information about our owners, we record how we executed our jobs, we record what happened during the interview and all of that. So how do we really learn from it? Yes, the information is sitting in our documents somewhere. So how do we learn from it? So we created this assistant for we call it our Get Work teams, which is our business development and sales and marketing teams. Now this helps them quickly, if someone is going for an interview, quickly get information about it, quickly get numbers on it, and kind of get ahead very quickly. And the second one is, as we are getting much more data-driven, we are working on figuring it out how to adopt the best practices much more easily. For a project engineer, for a project manager at a job site, it's very hard to go and read through the entire documentation which is out there. Yes, we have very good documentation. We are moving towards that. But how to get to this information quickly? So we are working on building out an assistant for figuring it out. What is the right workflow I should be using for a particular kind of in the phase of a project? How do we really get to this information very quickly? And the last one is ongoing. This is a longer project. It has been going for about almost 8 to 9 months. It's a tough project. We are calling it a early warning indicator. Is how do we really help our projects understand if the project is going in the right direction or not early into the life cycle, so that there is time to mitigate those problems. There is time to really go about and talk to the project teams to change the direction. Now, this is analyzing vast amounts of data. We are getting P6 data. We use CMIC, ACC, so harvesting large amount of data from our estimates, our labor transactions, our job costing, and all of that is being used to create those early warning indicators. Currently, we have a 50% kind of a model where it predicts with about 70 to 80% sometimes, but it is not there yet. But this is something which we're working on. Now with AI, as we heard in the previous presentation, safety, AI governance is of paramount importance to us. So how do we really get into this whole AI governance and responsible AI? So we built some principles into our data is how do we really protect our owner data? How do we really limit third-party usage? How do we really make sure that our data is not used by third parties to train their models on? And then how do we really collect data minimally so that we do not collect anything more than what is required? And then we also anonymize data in certain cases where we do not want to expose it. In addition to that, with DPR's culture, we wanted to make sure that we really use AI responsibly. There are certain cases where we will never use AI on, and so we kind of built that whole responsible AI framework where we talked about how do we really use it ethically. We do not want our AI to introduce any kind of bias or anything which probably is against our culture, our point of view. At the same time, how do we really have safety? data security, and always, as I mentioned earlier, having human oversight. Good, thank you.
Thanks, Hrishi.